Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Wolfpack Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Matt. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. You okay?
Yeah, great, mate. I'm John. How are you?
Yeah, all good, Henry.
All right, great. So we got some pretty interesting topics to talk about today. We got Brentford, Lopetegui. Then we'll look ahead to the Brighton match. We'll also talk about Raul Jiménez and even Bruno Lage for some of it. And then we'll move on to our special section, Tweet of the Week, which should be quite interesting. So my opinion on the Brentford game, I guess we'll start with that. It's an okay point. I'd say many fans and me agreed. Would have thought we needed we needed the win, but a draw isn't necessarily a terrible result. What's thoughts on that, Matt?
Well, I agree with you, to be fair. I think we were actually quite positive about the game, weren't we? We were saying, I think we could get something point. I think we thought the team were going to show a reaction, and I think they did. I think the first half in general was quite a poor game, actually. But, obviously, after a Ben Mee unreal bicycle kick, which I don't think anyone expected.
Didn't see that coming, did we?
It was good to see that, we talked about last week how the players didn't really react very well to conceding. Obviously, Neves, after 2 minutes of conceding, scores an absolute worldie. And you're thinking, okay, that's how we should be reacting. And I think overall, defensively, we were way better. I think Kilman, Collins, who, were poor against Leicester, I think they were both impressive. Fullbacks, Bueno, as getting player of the month,
Yeah, exactly.
It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And John, so what do you think of the Brentford game then?
Well, if we go back to the Leicester game, if I said to you after the Leicester game that we were going to keep Ivan Toney quiet, you'd never believe it. And we did. And it just shows how well the centre-backs did, and the full-backs as well, but especially the centre-backs. I think Collins was just unreal. Kilman was good, but Collins was unbelievable. And they just did so well to keep him quiet. And other forwards as well. As I say, it was only really Ben Mee with that worldie. Where it went in, they kept all the others quiet. And I just feel like just a slight drop in concentration, and that went in. I think if maybe they were just slightly more switched on, we could have prevented that. But overall, I thought it was a really good game. I thought it was a really good move bringing Boubacar in, because I think in the Leicester game there was that gap between the defence and the midfield, and Leicester were coming in and using that gap, and every time they were lethal. And I think that gap, even though he didn't really play the best in the first half.
Yeah, I was going to say first half he was quite poor, wasn't he? But then he grew into the game and started showing what he's about.
His passing range, especially in the first half, wasn't great. He was, misplacing passes, putting fouls in, and arguably should have been booked in that first half, I think.
But I think it's more nerves than ability.
Yeah, he's only young, isn't he? He's only young.
21 or something, I think the main difference from the Brentford game to the Leicester game, when we went 1-0 down, obviously they were disappointed because, they were arguably the better team, weren't they? I mean, I don't think we deserved to go on that. Out of the blue, didn't it? But the reaction was superb, wasn't it? We got our heads back up, went from the kick-off. And although it took a piece of magic, you wouldn't say it wasn't well worked. It wasn't just a pop shot, it was a nice passage of play around the box, and then it was, passed back in. It was Boubacar that actually left it for Neves, who just put it in the bottom corner. And you could see what it meant to the players when they were celebrating. Neves, he was delighted. The away end, I wasn't there, but I've heard it was absolutely brilliant. On the stream, you could see it was that they were chanting all the game and very loud. So I think it got behind the team. The team showed a reaction, and although a point isn't exactly what we needed, I think that it can spur something, and hopefully that we can start to pick up form against Brighton in front of a hopefully loud and supportive Molineux after the Lopetegui news. And I think now mentioning that, it's probably a good time to move on to it.
I just want to add, sorry, Henry, we haven't mentioned the red card, have we, at all?
Oh, my bad, completely my bad.
We haven't, and I mean, everyone really knows this. Like, a lot of people going, "Oh, what a shit house," or football heritage. To be honest, it's just pure stupidity, and we do love him, but you can't be doing that.
97th minute.
I was going to say, barely any minutes left in the game. It's just, I think it's if looking at it back, I think it is a bit soft. Like, I don't think it's Ben Mee just, he knows what he's doing. He's a model.
You can't put your head on an opponent,
but you can't put. Yeah, I agree. It is a red. I'm not saying it isn't, but anyway.
Do you think they'll even try and appeal? I've heard people saying, "Oh, I wonder if they'll appeal." I just can't see that there's even much point in doing it.
It's not going to work, is it? It's just not going to work. So we talk about a potential bounce for the Brighton game for the the seeming appointment of Julen Lopetegui. So yeah, I mean, we've seen what can happen with a manager in the last few hours before the appointment. So let's keep our fingers crossed. But this one seems like it's close and very close to done deal. So I'll just bring up the Lopetegui news now. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, right, should be coming up about now. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Let's see the Fabrizio tweet, which is, John Percy first broke the news yesterday, basically saying that, number one target, he instigated the talks, close to coming to a seal. And then you can see that Fabrizio there obviously says, highlights everything, saying that progressing well, final details under discussion, all parties confident. And I think one of the key points is definitely that Lopetegui instigated talks. It's not that we're going to him again. It's that he now wants this job and he's willing to take us forward. Should be a very, very interesting one to see how that progresses. But now let's have a look a bit at what kind of Lopetegui's playing style is. If I can just pull up this tweet that I've got. There you go. So there's from the coach's voice, Lopetegui's sort of playing style and how he was coaching, his principles and things. So what do you think of that then, Matt?
Well, I think huge respect to him because he's talked a lot of positivity about the club. During his time, for example, when we played in the Europa League, and for him to obviously an issue with his dad was what stopped it. I think he's got better. I don't think he has died. I think he's actually improved his health. But respect to him, for instigating these talks. And,
100%.
At the end of the day, you could argue, obviously, we have a decent squad on paper, but Wolves are not in an attractive position right now.
No,
we are struggling. It's simple as. So for me, someone with his European pedigree and his, the teams he's managed, I know it weren't so successful at Madrid, but, managing Madrid, managing Spain, Seville, winning, big trophies, Europa Leagues, etc. I think fair play to him, and I'm very happy with the appointment. Fair play to the board, fair play to everyone for getting him. Obviously, I say as if we've got him, but it's pretty much done deal as we speak. Hopefully it's announced in the next few days, and hopefully he can take the reins for a very tough game against Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know about you, but from my point of view, I'll talk to you in a sec, John, about what your thoughts are on this. But for me, a very attacking 4-3-3 with the players we've got. We need to get them scoring. And look at the players we've got, like Guedes, Pedence, who can score a goal, Neto when he's back fit. And then you add a striker to that mix in January. There was the Mariano rumour earlier today from Real Madrid. Obviously, Lopetegui worked with him, proving he could score goals at Lyon. Hasn't quite worked out from Madrid, but he's a proven goal scorer elsewhere. So I think that could definitely suit us. And then you've got players like Núñez and Neves who can, at least till January for Neves, be part of that three in midfield. And then if you can develop players like Boubacar, integrate Moutinho in once in a while. But I think the main highlight for me is the fullbacks providing attacking width, because we've got good attacking fullbacks. Look at the players like Bueno, who's broken through recently, Semedo, Aït-Nouri. These are all players that can put a good cross in and favour an attacking width. So I think that could definitely favour us. So
agree,
what are you saying about this then, John?
Well, firstly, I really like him. I think I showed you guys that I pulled back chats from May when we weren't even linked to him, saying that I personally didn't think Bruno Lage was the correct manager to take us forward, and I would go in for Lopetegui. And I think you boys saw it. That was in May. So I've always
remember that. Yeah, visionary.
And I just remember when we played Seville in Europa, they were so well drilled, they're so well coached. They were a nightmare to play against. They were so attacking, and I just thought after what a team, like he's done really well with this team. Like everyone knows exactly what their role is, and I think something like that would be perfect for us.
It's what we need, isn't it?
Yeah, and also I think like when I looked at when he was the Spain international manager, he didn't lose a game for Spain. The only reason he left was because he was offered the Madrid job. And I looked at the first few games that he did with Spain, and Diego Costa was his forward, and he really got them. I know obviously Costa was a different player back then, but he really got the most out of Costa. He's worked with Johnny Otto before. A lot of people don't know, but he managed Spain under 21s and actually managed Hugo.
Wow.
Which
that's interesting.
Didn't know that, to be fair. It's good knowledge.
Yeah, he did. So he's got connections there already with the players. Obviously, I'm sure with him being from Spain, he'll work well with Traore. And I just think he's a great manager. I think we're in a good position now because I saw some journalists this morning saying what Matt said, that his dad's in better health now. So obviously maybe he can really focus his whole mind on the football now, which maybe he wasn't before at Seville. I just think as well, I don't know if it's been spoke about, but I just feel like he's the kind of guy that can really help in the transfer market, bring some different kind of players.
100%.
Obviously, beforehand, maybe with Bruno, if he really wanted to, he could have picked someone from Benfica, but I think he can help get someone that he's worked with previously from Seville.
I agree,
Like I was saying, we've been linked with Madrid players. We can really bring in different kind of players. We can maybe move away slightly from the Portuguese, maybe look more because they score goals, don't they? The Spanish players, class. So I just think everything works well with him. He's the perfect guy for us, and I think he can really move us forward. And I think from what we've seen in some reports, not exactly 100%, but I think they're going to back him in January.
They need to. They really need to.
And I think he'll be able to really pinpoint exactly where we need strengthening. Like, I don't think Fosun will go crazy, but I can see at least a centre back, at least a forward, and you never know, he might even bring someone like a full back in. So we'll see what happens, because I think we're a little bit light on the right because Semedo's doing well, but I just don't know if Otto's going to be good enough backup if Semedo makes bad injuries.
Looking a bit sluggish, isn't it?
Especially with this attacking width, he talks about the fullbacks, which we mentioned before. As he's getting older, he's done his ACL twice, and as we said on the last podcast, when we played Leicester, he looked like a player who'd done his ACL twice, didn't he? I just don't know if he's going to be able to really provide what Lopetegui wants. And another big one for me from Lopetegui, which I think is worth talking about, is prioritising creating space from the inside channels, as you can see there. And you've got a lot of good creative players that you can potentially get the best out in the inside channels. You look at players like Podence, even Núñez, as he can drive from a deeper position into an inside channel. Guedes is sort of an inverted striker, sort of slash winger kind of thing. And even players like Hwang Hee-chan, who can play sort of that cross wing striker role, creating the space in the inside channels, making runs, can really, really help us with the kind of mould of player we want. And we've always had a top tier squad, and I mean, especially this season. And now I think we've got a top tier coach to go with it, 100%.
It's good, yeah. I agree.
And then if you look at the final point here, counter press from a high and compact defensive block. I think we have the players to press, especially in that midfield. If you've got Núñez, Neves, and Boubacar, Boubacar, Núñez, and Neves. I mean, you forget Neves; he's that young, but I know Neves hasn't really got particularly brilliant legs, but they can press and they can force mistakes and then counter attack. And we've got the defence to be able to keep out players when Kilman and Collins are on full form. So I think that Lopetegui can be a really, really good mould for Wolves. But you look at Lopetegui and let's have a look. Sort of, I guess we'll move on to sort of where it sort of went wrong for Bruno. I guess because he said this in Lisbon today about Wolves and his sacking. He said, a big lesson was learned was that I needed to convince people of what I need. I had good ideas, I didn't have the time nor the right players. I didn't need expensive players, but the right ones. And I guess that's sort of a hit at the recruitment.
Definitely.
Top sellers potentially, and Jeff Shee. What do you reckon about that?
I think I sort of agree with Bruno. I think you can't argue that he was backed heavily in the summer, but I do agree. We never really had that striker that was on top of his game because, we had a Raul that was, just not the same player. We had, players that just weren't really, making that sort of striker role their own and making us click, getting, 10, 15 goals a season. We've never had that. We've not had that since, prime Raul Jiménez. So I sort of agree with what he's saying, but at the end of the day, I think he knows as much as anyone, when you go on such a bad record, however many losses it was in a row, I think.
Gotta go.
He had to go, yeah.
Any thoughts, John?
I think, from what Matt says, pretty much the same. Like, obviously, we spent massive money on like 27 million on Guedes, and I just feel like really we should have put that into a striker. I know we bought Sasa, but
true. I forgot about him. Yeah, I forgot about him. Sorry.
I know we brought him in, but I think still though, there's so many teams now that have got 3 really good strikers now. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I think Everton's got 3, haven't they now? I know obviously is it Rondon's not that great, but it's still 3 strikers. Yeah, I just feel like I think nowadays you just need it because in the Premier League, if injuries just at the moment are coming so quickly, and I think it's because it's such a tight schedule with games, with the World Cup and stuff. I just think most teams do need 3 strikers, and I know obviously Fabio's out on loan, and that's a different story whether he should have been let out or not. But we don't know at the end of the season if they're going to loan Fabio for another year. We don't know what's going to happen, or if he gets. Yeah. So I just feel like there was space there to get a striker. I don't know if necessarily we need to spend 27 million.
I think you could argue we were quite unlucky with Sasha, weren't we? Because obviously, 100%. Looking at him, you could argue he had it all.
If the reports are true, I mean, that he had a slight tear in his
I don't
ACL before.
Them.
That's
I really like to think that it isn't true, but
50-50. But if it is true, I guess you can't. I mean, Lage has to blame himself, really. But he does mention here, like we've said, every time we played without a striker. And I think somewhere else, it might not have been in this quote, but somewhere else he spoke about other teams, every other team in the Premier League having a striker, and then it was hard to compete against. And, I do agree with him. The comments
to an extent,
comments seem to say the same. This one in particular taking quite a big shot at she and Sellers, quite extreme.
Fair play, Rick.
The only thing I would say is that if we get... Well, obviously Sasa back for next season. If Fabio comes back, if Raul wants to stay, and then Diego maybe might be saying, "I want to stay for another year."
Suddenly we've got an overload, don't we? Suddenly we've got an overload. Not to mention potentially signing one in January.
Yeah, which I think we need to do if you're looking at it realistically.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So Lopetegui, then I think we'll get like a final view from each. I think the feedback's mainly been positive. If he does come in, Matt, do you think that he can get us on a run? And where do you think we can potentially sort of look to finish with him and decent backing in January?
Mm-hmm. I think we're backing in January, and his sort of pedigree. You'd have to be looking, pushing for top half. Right now, you could argue that's just not realistic at all. But I think he's gonna drill some discipline and some sort of mentality into these players.
You'd hope so, yeah.
He has to, he just has to be honest. He's been there, done it, and you like to think, results start coming through, and we just need to, after the World Cup break, we just need to pick up results as best we can. We need to make sure Molineu's a fortress. I've been seeing a few chants that Seville fans did once Lopetegui was leaving, and a few of the Wolves saying we need to bring that to Molineux and sort of get it bouncing, because we really do. Molineu's been dead recently, hasn't it? Because there's nothing really to cheer about. The lads aren't playing well, and as sad as it is, everyone knows that fans struggle to get behind the team when they're not seeing anything on the pitch. So, but overall, as everyone knows, I'm very happy with it and really hope it can go well for him.
Yeah. So what are you saying, John, about where do you think we can finish, ambition, etc.?
Well, if it definitely goes through,
true. I'm talking as if it's
definitely gone through. Journalists are saying in Spain that it's definitely gone through. But I think, as Matt said, I think push as hard as we can to get maybe 10th or 9th, which is really which I don't think personally is going to happen, but we've got to push it. Yeah. I think really, realistically, with a top manager like that, we might be able to get 12th or 13th, and I think that is more realistic.
I agree.
But the only problem with us is some of the teams around us are looking good at the moment. You've got, I hate to say it, but you've got Villa now with a new manager, and they're going to back him heavily in January, so they'll probably start trying to go up the table as well. I think someone like Brighton are probably going to drop down to maybe that 9th, 10th position. You know what they're like; they usually drop off so far into the season.
True, yeah.
So I just think it's a really difficult season, and I think obviously we haven't picked up points where we should have. So I think he's going to come in and really he's going to realistically slightly write off this season. I think he'll just try and get in a safe position.
Yeah, we've got to survive first, don't we?
100%, yeah.
I think survive, work on the team. I think, and then by the summer he'll know the weaknesses. And we can go from there, and I can see having a good summer window, especially if we've got funds from Neves.
But sadly, might happen. Sadly,
yeah. But I can see a few other players. I could probably see Raul even then. And
I think Raul could go January, but we'll get to Raul in a bit.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. So yeah, I mean, on Raul, do you want to talk about him now? Because we can move on to Raul if you want now.
Yeah, let's do Raul, and then
so obviously, as you can see, share my screen again. Now he's back at Compton, putting the work in. It says, I mean, obviously they're going to paint it in a positive light. You got a few pictures to run through here. They're not all Raul, but obviously Sasa his recovery, etc. So with the Raul situation, him going off to Mexico recover, it all seemed a little bit like it wasn't really right, or we could be reading too much into it. He just wanted to spend some time back home. So yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on it, Matt?
I think I agree with a lot of the fans. I think why has he been in Mexico all the time? I think you could definitely argue the sort of medical facilities are better there, but I think sadly his mind's too focused on the World Cup. I completely get it's a big thing, what he wants to be as fit as he can. But as I was saying before, we started recording. Surely he'd want to be, pushing hard at Compton to try get at least 10, 20 minutes of match fitness and sharpness, before he goes ice cold into the World Cup, playing no minutes. For me, if I was him, I'd be pushing to do whatever I can to at least get on the bench against Arsenal and get
especially with Costa injured now. I mean,
exactly. He should be
without a striker. If he really wanted it, he would be putting in the work to get starting again against Brighton, or at least against Arsenal or Leeds, as you say.
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of people saying it's a bit weird I've gone back to Mexico, and no one particularly knows what the injury is.
It's a mystery, isn't it?
Groin, hip, hernia, stress injury. You don't really know. It all seems a little bit fishy, I guess, as if he doesn't really want to be there. I do agree with Matt that I think he's very focused on the World Cup. I don't want to be too critical of him because of his traumatic brain injury like that. He could have died realistically when you look at it like that. I mean, forgetting all about football, the guy could have died. So you don't, if his brain's not in the right place and he wants to, he wants to go back and see his family, then
might not be if he's not focusing on Wolves. I'm joking.
So he's got to. I mean, for me, he's got to be putting in the work until his contract goes, or until we sell him. And as we mentioned before, I think he could definitely go in the January window. I could see him spend a lot of time in Mexico. You'd look at Mexico as a definite potential option. He was at Club America, wasn't he? Before I think he went to Atletico Madrid or whatever it was, but I think he was at Club America. So you could definitely see something like that happening, and MLS could be on the cards or something. Yeah. I can't really see him going back and playing in Europe at a really high, really competitive level again, because I just don't think, unfortunately, after that injury, I don't think he can be the same sort of player. And I just think I just want it to end well. I think it could be the right time for it to end, because I don't think that he can sort of be an adequate help to the team on current form anymore, especially if his mind's not in it and he's not, he doesn't really want it. I just want it to end well. I don't want it to end on bad terms with him sort of refusing to play. But anyway, John, what are you thinking with Jimenez? What would you want from him?
Well, I think the club has left the fans in the dark here. I don't understand why they haven't just done an announcement and told us really what the injury is. None of this. One person said it's mental health. The other person said it's chronic something.
Chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue.
Yeah, that's it. The other person said it's a hip injury. I wish they'd just be really honest about it and say, well, maybe he's got some mental health problems and an injury. He's struggling. He's gone over to Mexico to be closer to his family and to recover, and just been truthful instead of just giving telling journalists loads of different things one week, different things the other, and I think if they were just honest about it, fans would take it a bit better. Yeah. And now there's reports that he might just be back for a couple of days and then fly back to Mexico. Well, why is he not working now to see if he can build up his fitness to at least make the Arsenal game? If he's flying, you guarantee he'll fly back to Mexico, miss the Arsenal game, and then he'll probably play the first game for Mexico in the World Cup. And it will be like, well, why couldn't you make the Arsenal game?
Yeah, I think if it does end something like that with him having this injury and not being able to not being able to make the bench from Wolves' point of view, and then he goes and starts for Mexico. I think it's not then raises the question, and fans start to turn on him. And I think with the stuff he's done for us, I don't want it to end like that, as I've said. And I think, I don't know about this. Was there a tweet of him training a few weeks ago in Mexico that was deleted or something?
I think it was just gym work, actually. I don't think it was anything too.
I saw something like that. I'm not going to read too much into it. To be fair to him, as I've said, he's had a brain injury. As John said, he could have some mental health issues. He wants to go back and see his family, which is completely fair enough. But I think you've got to be honest about it. And if he's not in it, you've just got to say that. And I think the fans will take it better than sort of some bullshit story that no one really wants to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So as we talk about future games, I think it's probably a good time to move on to Brighton and speak about that, because that's an interesting game, and it's going to be a really tough game. Obviously, Brighton coming off a great win, 4-1 at Chelsea. I don't know, 4-1 at Chelsea, 4-1 against Chelsea. Sorry, they were at home. Graham Potter wasn't received too well, I don't think.
No,
but
he wasn't.
They're a team that's just hit a good bit of positive confidence, I think, because I don't think they'd won a game under De Zerbi before that.
No,
they might have won one. I don't think they had. Yeah. But it's a big confidence boosting win. No matter how sort of down in the dumps Chelsea are and not a particularly good side at the moment, at the end of the day, it's still Chelsea. It's still a big side that, and a 4-1 win is obviously not expected. So I think that's a really big confidence booster for Brighton. But equally, I think with a new manager coming in for Wolves, there'll be lots. If the deal's done and we're watching the game, there are lots of players wanting to prove their point. And I think that could be a really good game. I hope the fans get behind the players, and it can be a big result for Wolves if that does end up being the game where Lopetegui's confirmed, and if we do get a win there, I think that could be a big season starting boost.
100%, yeah.
But just thoughts on what do you think?
I'll give my thoughts. So obviously Brighton are on. I've looked it up. They're 1 win from 6, so I think they just cashed in on their XG, didn't they, against Chelsea? They've been missing so many chances, like Brighton under Graham Potter, so many shots, no goals. But I think you have to say their performances have warranted a few more points than they've got.
Yeah,
I think they played good football under.
They're still in an excellent position, really, when you look at the team.
And Trossard's on fire, etc. And it's going to be a tough game, simple as. You can go back to Henry on this, but I'm going to give my predicted lineup, actually.
Okay, that's a good shout. I'll
go back to you on it after, and then we'll go to John. But so this is not predicted, actually. It's my preferred. I don't think Steve Davis goes for this. He could, actually. More realistic than last week.
Well, I thought you said last week that he wasn't going to go for it, and he went for exactly the right thing or something.
Yeah. Anyway, Sarr in goal. Semedo, right back. Collins, Kilman, Hugo Bueno. Boubacar Traoré, Nunes and Neves as a midfield 3, and then the front 3 of Adama Traoré, Guedes and Podence. I think if Guedes is fit, I think that's probably the team he starts with, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, realistically, when you're thinking about that, other than Hwang, and I think
true.
Guedes is a better player than Hwang, but that's the only sort of real striker option we've got. And as I said last week, the only real glimmer of Guedes that we've seen where he looked good playing a more central role. And the only real, not seen much of Guedes at all, really, when you think about it. But in that Spurs
Cameo's recently, isn't it?
I know he put a lot of shots wide, but he was driving forward. So I guess there's an argument to be made for him. We could go for could put sort of Podence in the pocket and then have a more pacey attack of Adama and Hwang, or Adama and Guedes, something like that. But I think with the Diego Costa injury, and if Raul's not fit, which I don't think he will be.
Yeah, he won't be in the squad.
Then I think it would have to be something like that, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Unless he does a crazy something and goes to 5 at the back, but that's not happening. I think we all know that.
Don't think it'll be 5 now.
So John, what would you go with the lineup, and what's your thoughts on the Brighton game as a whole, I guess?
Well, I think to begin with, I generally think even if Costa was available, I don't know if it really is. I don't know how effective he would have been because of how tall and strong the Brighton centre-backs are. Because you can't just keep on putting balls in like Traoré does, because Brighton will win every single one in the air.
Probably a quick counter.
Isn't he the tallest player in... Now Sasha's gone, he's the tallest player in the league, isn't he, their centre-back?
I think it's Dan Burn. Yeah.
Oh, well, anyway, I know they're really tall.
Yeah, they are
I
tall
just
side,
think, I just think it wouldn't work. So I think in one way, the lineup that Matt says is exactly the same lineup I would have picked. Can work because you can work through different channels. You can maybe work a bit more central, going for the central there without going so wide. And I think that's the way you hit Brighton. I think putting the balls in the air, you've got no chance.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree. Yeah,
and also I think defensively, for me, we've just got to do everything we can to stop Trossard because he's such a good player. He's so dangerous.
Brilliant form right now.
And they haven't really got a striker at the moment because. Welbeck at the moment struggling, and I think Trossard's the guy that's stepping up for him, and he's
getting the goals, isn't he?
Like the last game with Brentford, it's Ivan Toney. You've got to stop him, so they have got to do everything they can to stop him. And when you stop him, they don't get results. Because you know what I mean. I think was he the first person to score for Brighton? No, he definitely scored. He was on the score sheet. Wasn't he? For Brighton, and he just loses the whole team. Yeah. If you take him out of the game, it will really affect the whole team. But I do feel like I think what Matt said is a really good lineup, and I think that's what we've got to go with. And I just hope there's obviously rumours of bad attitude there with Guedes. I don't know if that's the case. There's rumours of him.
Not sure what to believe.
Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully someone's spoken to him. Hopefully he's getting a chance to start. That might give him, make him a bit more positive, give him a better attitude. And then go from there. But if he has got a shit attitude, he has got a poor attitude, and there's obviously rumours going around that he's not been, I don't know how true it is, not been that nice to coaching staff. If that's true, then I wouldn't even care. I'd put Hwang in because I don't care if he's a good player or not. If he's got the bad attitude and he don't want to be here, I'm not saying that's the case, but if it's true, because they'll know, if that's true, then start Hwang because I don't think he deserves it. But if it's not true, then definitely I'll go with that lineup.
So I think we've all given our thoughts on the Brighton game, and as a summary, it's going to be a big 3 points if we can get it. It's going to be a big game either way. Hopefully, the new manager bouncer and players, knowing the guys watching, theoretically everyone's got to prove themselves again. You know, other than big players, sort of like Neves, etc., and Sarr, who just aren't going to be dropped realistically. So it'll be a massive 3 points if we can get it. And I don't think a draw will be a bad result, keeping an unbeaten streak going into Leeds in midweek, then Arsenal. And hopefully we can get a good building block, sort of a mini pre-season throughout World Cup if Lopetegui comes in, and if we do have some games. But I think that's enough on Brighton, and we're going to move on to our little special sections.
We haven't got too long left, so let's
move on to our little special sections, and that is tweet of the week, which I'll be doing. Then we'll have some Instagram questions from Matt.
Yeah, it's going to be a rapid one because
so my tweet of the week is this from Ryan Lester, and I think with all the slating we've given Fossen last week, I think we had to do this because as he says, credit where it's due. This is good business. I mean, obviously with the Leo Campagna deal, we bought him in for like 900,000 or something, and we've made a decent profit on him. And you look at other young players, obviously Gibbs White's in the academy, but we've picked up for a low price and sold on for a profit. So I think this is kind of good business, as he said here, acquiring talent, developing by loans and cashing in. As Matt says, we don't have the longest of time left. So that's a pretty quick section, but I'll hand it over to you, Matt, for the Instagram questions. I'm excited.
So
always some big ones, aren't there?
There's some very big ones. We've got 3 minutes, so it won't be as rapid as last time, but I will pretty much fly through these. First question from Charlie Boyd: will Lopetegui save us? Any thoughts on that? Just a quick 2 seconds.
Just about.
Literally,
just about.
If he gets his players, if he gets them working, I think we'll be okay.
I agree. I think we'll be okay. Will Lopetegui do enough to get us top 10 this season, or is the season already over? That's from Silly and Dean.
I mean, realistically, no. But if you dream, yes.
You can never rule out a good run after the World Cup, etc. Especially with players being rested, like we have. Not loads will be going. So I think he can, but I think he'll have to have big back in the transfer window and get them playing almost immediately. So I think no, but I think he will keep us safe.
This is from AJXNS. Should our current owners leave Tropical Wolverhampton, and who should replace them? I mean, we don't really have time to answer that, but our owners, we don't really know what the situation is with them, if they're going to sell, how much debt they're in, etc.
I think more
so
of well,
praise, I think, for sticking to the guns and waiting for Lopetegui and potentially getting him back in. Because that's some credit now, because last week everyone hated him.
Yeah.
But now they've done what they wanted. They've got their first target. So they've done right, haven't they? Really. So I think there's a bit of credit there, isn't it? Where it's due.
Definitely.
I agree. Yeah. And then last one from my mate Abdul. Shout out to you, mate. Just one thing. Don't forget to spread your cheers to Wolves fans in Morocco, particularly me. So yeah, big shout out to Abdul and shout out to Delph Rangers as well. Class Sunday League team. Up the Rangers.
all Wolves fans in Morocco, if there are any watching it, best wishes to you. We can hopefully have a bit of a better season, keeping the faith over.
Yeah, keep the faith.
Hold on, we're going to do a score prediction.
Yes. Okay, let's finish it off with that. Let's wrap it up with that.
2-1 Wolves.
2-1 Wolves. I'm going. I can't see us winning 1-1.
John,
I'm gonna be 1-1. I'm saying
1-1. Okay.
I love a draw. Brighton do.
We're so positive. Brighton do love a draw. 1-1.
They do love a draw.
All right. I think that's gonna have to be time for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you do enjoy, please make sure to drop in the comments what your thoughts on all topics we have discussed, mainly Lopetegui, etc. Obviously, I enjoyed. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, spread this podcast everywhere. We're trying to grow
so much for
massively. Thanks for the support,
and
cheers, guys.
Thanks for the support, and I will see you next time.